Good morning. Good morning. How are you? How are you all? It's so good to be here. My first YouTube live. How exciting! And doing it when Self Care Studio is 1 year old. Today marks 1 year of doing these videos, and it is very exciting. I should maybe have chosen an easier topic for this morning because we're going to talk quite a bit. But I am so glad to be able to be able to do this. So I just need to pause my music. As always, I needed to hype myself up a little bit. Let me get straight into it. If you are new here, good morning. You are so welcome. Thank you for taking a time for yourself. My name is Amy Isaacs, and I'm a mental health occupational therapist. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the impact of stress and the impact of stress on our mental capabilities. So let me carry on with my introduction a little bit more. Um, Yeah, as I said, my name is Amy Isaacs. I'm a mental health occupational therapist with more than 12 years' experience in various fields, including mental health and wellness, and intellectual disability and developmental delays. So today's topic is going to link quite a bit to what I generally do in my workspace. This is an area I'm very passionate about, and I'm hoping that these sessions help make mental wellness activities more accessible and more accepted in general. I'm hoping that you learn some stress management tools this morning and that you can keep on practicing them for yourself at home. And I do need to say that while a lot of my sessions are therapeutic in nature, they are not therapy, they are skills development and education classes and just really skills to help manage stress and anxiety better. I want to encourage you to seek out support from health professionals who can assist you. And I often refer you to either Hope House Counseling Services or Cape Town Counseling. There are quite a few as well. There are oh, hey, Doc, welcome. They are the African Depression Anxiety Group, and they've also just launched, well, last year during lockdown, they launched Empower, which is a really great just support off with either counseling, free counseling. My connection's not great. Give me a second. Free counseling, debriefing. They offer debriefing whether on an individual basis or even to your staff team as a group. They also extend their services to family of those who work in nonprofit organizations. So even if you don't work for the organization, but you've got a family member who does, they will extend their services as well, which is really exciting and really helpful at this time, especially because often mental health services are not as accessible as we need them to be. So I want to encourage you to seek support if you need more support. There's no harm in needing someone to talk to just about your own stuff. So often we are so hesitant to talk about what's going on with us because we're the strong ones. We're the ones who listen. We're the ones who help everybody your own stuff. So often we are so hesitant to talk about what's going on with us because we're the strong ones. We're the ones who listen. We're the ones who help everybody else. And it's important to look after yourself as well and just sometimes talking to somebody about what's going on with you, just you, nobody else. Sometimes that's very helpful just to offload a little bit. So I want to encourage you to try that and to reach out if you need more support. Let's carry on for today's session. Oh, my nose is very itchy this morning. Excuse me. That is our mental capacity. Memory is a problem. And the session is definitely going to be for you. So when I talk about this, and I wonder if you are watching, oh, my nose is very itchy this morning. If you are watching, pop it in the comment section if any of this is just relating to you and how you are feeling. So maybe you are having more days where you walk into a room and you can't remember what you walked into that room for, especially if it's the kitchen or your bedroom or in your workspace, and you can't remember what you actually went to do. Um, you might open an email just to get it started or start typing an email and then suddenly realize you don't actually know what was the point of this email. You can't remember what the point of this email was, so you kind of just leave it for the next time. Some other things that we could be struggling with is just focus and attention. Have you sort of lost track of meetings because you're so used to Zoom meetings now or any online sort of platforms that while people are speaking, your mind drifts a little and then you come back and you're realizing you don't actually know what we're talking about or where we are in this meeting. So there's a lot of this going around at the moment. There are many of us who are really just struggling with the space. And I just really wanted to talk to you about why that is and how we can help ourselves through this space. So again, if anything that I'm saying makes sense to you this morning or really is just resonating with you this morning, I encourage you to pop it in the chat section. Let's get chatting about how we can help each other and what else we're experiencing, like really normalizing the space of these are the struggles or these are the things that we're struggling with. Before I start, though, I just really want to do a deep breathing session, just a short one, just to really ground us this morning and prepare our brains for learning. We very often need to prepare our brains for learning, and I'm going to be talking about that a lot today, like preparing our brains just for the work that it needs to do. So I'm going to start us off this morning with a box breathing. And if you follow my Instagram pages or my Instagram page, you would have seen box breathing on that page. It is a very simple, effective box breathing exercise. We're going to inhale for 5, and it's going to look like a box, right? So we're going to inhale for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5, and pause for 5. We're going to do this 3 times. And you're going to do it together with me. You don't have to count. I'll count. You can just focus on your breathing. So wherever you are, I hope you're nice and comfortable. If you're seated, back up straight, feet flat on the floor. If you're laying down, make sure your legs are uncrossed and your hands are open. So let's just get going. Before we start, let's take a nice deep breath in, as deep as you can, and just exhale as much as you can. Another deep breath in. And really just exhale as much as you can. And let's take a deep breath into the count of 5 and inhale through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to hold it for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale for 5 slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to pause for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do another inhale through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Holding for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhaling for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to pause for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's the last one on your own. So you're going to inhale and hold. Exhale slowly through your mouth. And pause. Lovely. Let's do a nice deep breath in and exhale. Great. So we should be feeling nice and calm and grounded and just really generally ready for our brains to learn. My nose is so itchy this morning. Now let's learn about our brains. So I need to tell you now that I really love the brain. I find it so fascinating and interesting what the brain is able to do for us. And it really does just control all our bodily functions, from hunger to all our sensory information decoded and then recoded. And that's how we actually understand how we respond. So let me explain this to you in terms of a computer and like really considering your brain as a computer. How do computers work? We give input, we tell the computer what to do, it kind of figures out and decodes the information, matches it up to something else, and then gives us a response. Our brain does pretty much the same. So our input is up to something else and then gives us a response. Our brain does pretty much the same. So our input is our brain, and then our brain kind of goes, have I seen this before? Have I tasted this before? Have I touched this before? Do I know this? Your brain kind of goes in a bit of matching exercise through the neural pathways, right? So your brain sends out a neural pathway that kind of goes all the way into your brain and goes like, is it matched to memory? Is it matched to something I've read about? If it's matched to something I've tried, I've seen, where is it? And if it matches to something, it kind of goes, okay, yeah, sure, that's fine. That's safe. I know that. Let's carry on with that. And we proceed, whether it be tasting something or moving forward in an activity. But when our brains go, that's new, that's different, I don't actually know what that is, our brains are wired to protect us. So it kind of backs off and goes, I don't know if you want to do that. Let's just hold off. Is it safe? Is it okay for us to do that? And I think the easiest way to show this is through taste. And I want you to consider when you're eating something that is common to you. So let's just say you're eating your favorite chocolate. Um, the minute you put it close to your nose, the scent of it is sending a neural impulse to your brain. Your brain is going, oh, I know that smell. Yeah, sure, I like that. Already before you taste the chocolate, there's saliva forming in your mouth. There's anticipation of what this is going to taste like. And your brain is okay for you to eat that. When you put it in your mouth and you taste it again, signals are sent to your brain that goes, yeah, sure, I know that, I enjoy this, and you continue eating the chocolate. Now consider what happens when it's a new fruit, for example. It's the easier option to a new fruit that you found at a market somewhere, and your brain's going with neural impulses. I haven't seen this before. What's the next thing you're going to do? Our natural step as humans, our next thing is that we're going to smell it, right? We're going to go, I haven't smelled this before. It's interesting. Again, sending signals to our brain's going, we might try and match it in our brain. It smells like watermelon, or maybe it smells like strawberries or apples. It will try and connect it to something that you already know and that you already might be familiar with. If it doesn't connect it, it's going to go, I've smelled that before. I don't know if it's safe. What are you going to do next if you're really interested in trying it? Other than feeling, etc., and seeing if you can feel or touch it, when you taste it, you're going to taste just a tip, just a little bit, like just, okay, maybe I like that. And again, your brain is going to try and match it to something else that you've experienced before. So, tastes a bit like an apple, tastes a bit like a watermelon. And then it goes, maybe it'll be safe. Other parts of your brain might then go, because of course it goes through our memories. Remember that one time we tried fruit and we didn't have the best stomach response. We needed to use the bathroom quickly. Remember that one time that happened? So maybe it's not the safest thing to try this new positive by nature because you want to try it. Always taking in information, trying to decode them, trying to see if we understand, if they make us feel safe. And that process of decoding, fetch something in the kitchen and you get there and no idea what they just said. You could really be making decisions. So somebody could come to you and be like, I really need you to tell me whether I plan the next meeting or whether I do something else. And, you're really struggling to make those decisions. Those decisions could also be something as simple as what are we having for dinner? That could also be something you're really struggling with. You could be struggling with continuing a task. You start something, just feel a little overwhelmed by it, and then you stop it, and you just kind of park it. I often have at the moment probably about 3-4 emails that I start and then stop. It's not great, but that is where my brain capacity is at the moment. You might also really be struggling to make plans, or adding any details to a plan. Like, yes, we want to go on holiday, but I actually don't have the capacity to even search for places or understand where we want to go to or what type of holiday we want to go to. Again, if any of this is sounding like what's happening to you at the moment, pop it in the comments section. Tell me what you're struggling with, and we will try and match it to what we are talking about this morning, which is the executive brain functions. Now, I also want you to consider this with your kids. I'm going to go through the list of executive brain functions now, and I want you to go through it in terms of your children. Now, our executive brain functions, not all of them are developed as we are children. A lot of them only reach their peak development when we were young adults. They're also struggling with this at the moment. And especially if you're looking at teenagers or those who have school's really stressful at the moment for kids. So I want to take you through some of these executive functions, and then I'm going to talk to you about why we're struggling with them right now. So let's look at some of them. Planning, first executive function, planning. And planning is really about how are we going to be figuring out how we're going to achieve our goals. Whether your goal is have a full day at work, make dinner. Dinner's a goal. Pack your kids' lunches is a goal. For kids, finishing their homework is a goal. There might be projects, etc. Planning all of this could be really difficult for you at the moment. And with all of this, I really just want to tell you that you're not alone. There are almost all of us really struggling with these things. Organization. Organization from as simple as having your fridge organized and knowing what's in it, to having your workday organized and knowing what's in it. Making sure your kids' homework is packed into their school bags, that they actually have school lunch that they're taking. I don't know how many of you are just packing random lunches because you're going, this is all we actually have at the moment, because you're not organized as you used to be. Time management is also an executive brain function. So you might be feeling like, oh, I've got 20 minutes before my Zoom meeting starts. I'm going to put on the laundry. I'm going to just pack school lunches quickly, or pack lunch when the kids come home from school. And you give yourself so many things to do, but because you're not understanding the concept of that 20 minutes and how much you can actually do in that 20 minutes. So what then happens? You realize, actually, my meeting started 10 minutes ago and I'm in the middle of things that I should have been done with. It happens. Time management becomes a problem. Task initiation is another executive brain function, just the ability to start something. I don't know about you, but at the moment, that is something I'm really struggling with, just the ability to just start on a project. Executive brain functions, again, is our working memory, and that is the ability to remember what we were doing. So if you're typing an email and you're actually needing to order something from someone in this email, it could be a point of you going, dear whoever, I just really like to place the following order. And then you go, what was the order? What was I supposed to do? This is our working memory. It is our short-term memory. And you could be struggling with your short-term memory at the moment. Another executive brain function is metacognition, and that's using what we already know to make a decision. So again, I want to take you back to the sensory space of using what you know to make a decision. Using whether you can relate something to that smell or taste or any sensory input, something you're hearing and seeing, connecting it to something you already know, and then using it to make a decision. Could be a problem for you at the moment. Another executive brain function is self-control. Now, this is an interesting one at the moment, because you could really be struggling with self-control, and that comes in where maybe you're eating too much of something that you know you shouldn't be eating of. You shouldn't be eating. Maybe you're eating little, and you know that your food intake is a problem. Um, Self-control in terms of, some of us overwork, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit as well. We overwork and we don't control just that ability to actually step away from what we're doing. Self-control in terms of substances. How many painkillers are you taking recently? Is there actual pain there? Or are you just taking painkillers to help manage some other things going on in your life? How many glasses of wine are you having? And again, is that a matter of, I'm just going to have one for the evening, or is self-control a problem? It is an executive brain function. Attention, we've spoken about. Perseverance. The perseverance is the ability for us to go, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and keep working on a project. It's also something you could be struggling with at the moment. And then our flexibility is also an executive brain function. So you could have put something together that makes you go, kids, we are leaving at this time. And because we are leaving at this time, all of these things need to be set up. But your time management is a problem. Your children's time management is a problem. So you're trying to leave for the school day or to drop them at school, and they've completely forgotten half the things. So have you. And your inability to be flexible actually makes you completely feel like you're losing it, like just blow up. And I'm going to talk about how we manage these things now, how they show up. Give me a second. That was the last one. So why are all these things a problem? And how does stress and anxiety? Oh, again, my nose is really itchy. And Rox is saying self-control is a huge one for me right now. Work, food, and device time. Yeah, how many of us are doing that? Self-control without devices. Are we doom scrolling all the time? Are we always looking for something else to entertain us and be distracted from what we actually need to do? Because this is what our cell phones have become. They have become a distraction. So we know we need to keep working. We know we need to send that email. And I will easily go, let me just check something quickly. And then I've lost an hour. It happens to me so regularly during the day. And we're going to talk about how we can help ourselves with this space. But I want to tell you why this is happening. And previously, we've spoken about the fight, flight, and freeze and how our bodies respond to stress, right? Our brains respond to stress. And again, I want to remind you that your brain's job is always to protect you, and stress and trauma are, your body needs to respond to it. Your body says stress, trauma, here's more cortisol. Remember, cortisol puts us in a fight, flight, freeze. And now I'm going to introduce a new one of fawn response to you, because fawn is a response to trauma. We cannot underestimate the impact of stress and trauma of the last year and a half. Now, our bodies can respond to stress in small amounts, right? Cortisol, we can respond with how we're going to fix a situation or stress, something that causes stress, and we can work through it if it is short bouts of stress. Then we have short bouts of stress, and they are not perceived stress. Remember, our brain works on perception of stress. And we are not given time to regulate from that. We are not taking time to regulate. We don't use our deep breathing. We don't use our exercise. We don't manage what we eat. We keep doom scrolling and taking in all this negative information. So our bodies keep going persistent stress. Persistent stress becomes trauma. And we need to acknowledge this trauma of the last year, because it's the first way you work through trauma, is that you actually just acknowledge that something was a traumatic event, and we are continuously in a traumatic event. Now, if you're watching from South Africa and you've been experiencing everything we have in South Africa in the last couple of weeks and months, and I'm sure we can say yes, honestly, it is persistent stress which has become trauma. So our brains are really just trying to keep us in survival mode. And the survival mode comes up in many different ways. And these ways affect our executive functions, which were the things that I was just talking about. So all those executive functions are going to slow down in order for our brains to either give us a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. That's where it wants to be. It wants to protect us. One of those things or multiples of those things need to happen. Now, let me tell you how you're seeing that in your daily life and how that plays out in your daily life. Let's look at flight. Now, often people think flight is just a runaway situation, and flight is not necessarily just runaway. Although I wouldn't be surprised if under flight you've been searching more some ways to leave the country in the last month. That's a flight response. I'm sorry, I just need to put my phone on silent because it could become problematic. So a flight response, you could be thinking of, I just need to run away. I just need to get out. So you might actually have been searching for, how can I leave South Africa? Like, how can I leave the country? I really don't want you to feel bad about that response, because it is a trauma response. You've been going through trauma. It's our human nature to want to protect ourselves and our families and our loved ones. So flight is possible. You're going, where do I go next? But here are some other flight responses that you might not have considered, because we really just see flight as a runaway. But being a workaholic is a flight response. You want to, it's about having some level of control. So you throw all your attention into work, so that your attention can't be somewhere else. You could also be an overthinker. And overthinking is something that I'm very familiar with. It is definitely one of my flight responses. And I will easily overthink for an extended period of time. And it could be, again, remember, this is your brain's response. So it could be anything from overthinking for a little bit of time to overthinking for a couple of hours. And I mean, that's how your brain gets distracted from what you are actually trying to do. So you could be thinking, okay, I need to send these emails and I need to write this proposal, but something pops on your phone that goes load shedding. Let's just use load shedding as an example. A load shedding alert. And you start thinking about how that impacts you, right? So you're thinking, I didn't do laundry, I didn't take something out of the freezer, so I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do that. But overthinking might take over to the extent where it takes so much time to think about that you actually have not done any of the work that you needed to do. So overthinking is a fight response. Anxiety is a fight response. So is panic and obsessive compulsive disorder responses. And remember, OCD is an actual disorder. So it's not a matter of you just being OCD about cleaning things. We need to stop using diagnoses as personality traits. But you might find that you are doing some things compulsively. Like you might find that you need to, obviously washing your hands at this point is irrelevant. Lots of people are doing that because you're worried about COVID. So you're washing your hands more regularly. Other OCD things could be that you're checking an email 4 times before you send it. Like, consistently checking it, rereading, without realizing that it's actually just taking up so much of your time. And it was okay the first time. You could have difficulty sitting still and actually just really focusing on your work. So it could be a matter of, I'm sitting at the computer, I'm ready to work. I just need to fetch water. I'm getting up and you're coming back. I just need to go do this, and you're coming up. You're getting up and you're coming back. So you're really struggling to actually just sit and focus and do work that you need to do. And the challenge under flight is perfectionism. So you're struggling to complete that proposal, put out that project, finish that email, because you actually just want everything to be perfect. And it's a trauma response. It's important for us to learn. I'm currently fighting this with myself. But it's once we know it, we can make active steps to overcoming these responses. Under fight, some things that you might not have considered under fight is an anger outburst. Like, you're not just, people often think fighting is like actively being aggressive with somebody, but there are other ways for this fight trauma response to come out. So it could be anger outbursts. You're absolutely fine. You're really stressed with how much work you need to get done, and your child brings one school project to you, and you actually just explode. The response was not appropriate, but it's your trauma response, and it's something you need to work on. Controlling situations is another fight response. You could really just wanting to be able to control every aspect of a situation. It's very, very difficult. You could possibly be the bully in a situation. And I know many people don't like to be considered themselves bullies, but we all have the ability to be a bully in a situation. You could be narcissistic in a situation and just like really only worried about how you respond in your space in a situation. And then there could also be explosive behavior, whether positive or negative. You could completely ignore everything that you have, that you've got planned, or everything that you need to do. And you could actually just be like, let's just get in the car and we're going to go out. But then that's but if any of these are making you what we've been having, and it's a really difficult changes. Or even small decisions like, what are we going to have for dinner? Or are we going to watch on Netflix? I mean, partner or whoever you watch Netflix because you just can't make a decision. The same for dinner. You could be arguing about what are we having for dinner when actually that's not the point. The point is that you're actually in a freeze response to trauma, so you can't make the decision. Another freeze response is just being stuck, not being able to take a step forward. And remember, I was saying earlier, one of the executive functions is task initiation. It's just the ability to start something. And when you are overwhelmed and when you have a trauma response, that becomes incredibly difficult to do. Dissociation and a freeze response is also a very big response. When I say dissociation, I mean you separate yourself from what needs to happen. So you actually just go, I can't, no, not going to be involved. Not me this time. And that can happen in multiple situations, whether it is a work situation or something that's happening in your family or your extended family, or even something that's happening in the news. You could really just go, I can't handle any more negative news. I can't handle any more speaking of looting or Phoenix or any of, I just can't, and you dissociate from the problem. Another freeze response is isolation and isolating yourself. And it's hard now because we are already in isolation. We already are in a space of isolating ourselves just in general because of COVID, because it's something we need to do, but also it's a freeze response to trauma. You might completely isolate yourself because you don't want to deal with what's happening. And you don't want to have the conversations with people. You don't want to be involved in the conversations. So you've actually just stepped back from that and gone, no, not me. I'm not going to be involved in this. And the last one in a freeze response is just being numb. Like, I don't know if you're feeling that lately, that you actually just, I don't have any feelings regard towards this. I feel numb about the situation. I don't know where to move forward to. I don't know how to make a decision about it. I just don't know what to do or how to feel about this. So it's important to acknowledge that these are trauma responses. And now I'm going to push you into fawn, which is a new one that I haven't spoken about before, but it's important, especially in this space. And these trauma responses are also trauma for now, but also could be trauma from childhood trauma from different parts of your life. And these are how you could respond with it. So fawn very often are people pleasers. They're the people who go, they say yes for everything. There's no boundaries. They say yes for everything. They want everybody around them to be happy all the time. So you could be struggling with your own trauma responses to the last year and a half, but you don't want anybody else in your family to be uncomfortable. So you, or in your workspace even, to be uncomfortable. So you constantly try to please them. You want to make sure that everybody knows when the meeting is. You want to make sure that, yes, I'll set up the meeting. I'll make sure there's snacks if it's face-to-face meetings, because a lot of people are doing that again. But I'll set up the meeting. Don't worry about it. I'll do all of that. You have no time. You have no extra time. But because you don't want anyone else to be going through traumas or stress, you take it on yourself. You also have no boundaries, or you could be struggling with your boundaries at the moment. And I don't know about you, but boundaries are very important to me right now, because you need to remember that you are not the only person dealing with these trauma responses. Everybody else has them as well. So other people in your life could be in a flight trauma response of a workaholic, or being obsessive about things, or being perfectionists. They could also be having anger outbursts and be controlling. And they could also be dissociated and being stuck. But that doesn't mean that in terms of your boundaries that you have to take on all of that. So you could have a colleague, for example, who is a workaholic, an overthinker, and a perfectionist, and you just want to hand in the project that you guys have worked on well. It's ready to go in. But this colleague is having the other trauma responses. You need to set boundaries, because if you don't say to someone, actually, we've worked really hard on that. I'm actually okay for that to be submitted. If you are in a state of fawn and people pleasing and not having boundaries, that becomes a very destructive process, because you're taking on all of their trauma responses also. So boundaries become incredibly important right now. You could also just feel overwhelmed. And when we're overwhelmed, we don't know where to move forward to. And then under fawn as well is codependency, just really requiring other people in order to move forward with what you need to do. Now, all of these things that I've mentioned have a lot of other spaces, or a lot of these are all topics on their own. All the trauma responses is a topic on its own. Trauma itself is a topic on its own. And exactly the same way, executive functioning and all the executive functionings each have their topic on their own. I could teach you about time management and different steps to manage time management in one video on its own, in one session. The same as in really task initiation, like any of those, there are topics on their own. So I am going to give you a brief overview of how we manage this. So firstly, after I say that, I want you to take a nice deep breath. A lot of things I said now could have been very challenging for you, very difficult, and that could have been absolutely what you're going through right now. And that's okay. I want you to be gentle with yourself. You did not cause this trauma. The trauma and stress is happening to you. But we can control how we manage it. We can control how we respond to it. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips, just a couple of tips of how we continue and how we actually can help ourselves in this space. So how are we going to work through this? Actually, quite a few slides. How are we going to work through this? Our first way we're going to work through this is the same way these things happen. So we are going to use our sensory system to help manage our neural responses and create new neural pathways. Now that sounds strange, but let me give you an example. Planning, right? So we want to create new neural pathways. And because of this, we want to use our sensory system. I'm going to show you how the brain works. The brain is kind of like an upside down triangle, right? Let's do that way. The bottom of the triangle is where all your sensory inputs come in, right? So what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch, what you feel within your body, and what's around you, right? So proprioception, of just perception of space also. So I'm sitting on a chair against a wall. My brain gets that input all the time also. If your input goes in over here, right, then it moves up. I mean, this is just a very simple, simplistic space of the brain. It then moves up, and like I spoke about at the beginning of this video, those neural pathways, they go into our memories. Do I know this? Have I done this before? Have I seen it before? They go into, have I learned this? Have I seen it before? Have I done it before? And if it doesn't find a match, either way, whether it does or doesn't find a match, it goes further into where we do our executive functioning, right? I don't know this. I haven't seen it before. What am I going to do about it? Executive function is that decision making. I know this. I've seen it before. I've done it before. I've tried it before. I'm safe. Executive functioning goes into that thinking. What am I going to do with this? Right? We can encourage those neural pathways and create more positive responses from those neural pathways. I'm going to give you an example. If you're really struggling with memory, where else do you use that memory? And where can you use it in a space where you enjoy? So if you're struggling with your short-term memory, you can play games, really fun memory games. So what we're doing is we're finding something that has meaning to us. And this is really the foundation of occupational therapy. Find something that has meaning to us so that we can recreate those neural pathways in a way that we like and we enjoy. So that when we need to use those neural pathways for things like work and things that we need to focus on, we've actually strengthened them, right? Now, I don't want you to get stuck in the space of where a lot of people get stuck in the space of, oh, I can't do that. You can. Your brain is an amazing tool. It is an amazing tool. And even if when you were a child or when you were younger, those negative thoughts of, I can't, I'm stupid, I'm this, I'm that, you need to change your negative thought patterns. You absolutely do. And you can, because there's this concept of neuroplasticity. And it is my favorite concept about the brain, or my favorite way the brain works. And it's also such a foundation for all the children I work with. So in my daily job, the children I work with are the kids that I need to teach to eat. I need to teach them to use the toilet. I need to teach them to just really pick up a spoon and things. And I can do that because your brain has capacity to learn this. Your brain has the capacity to learn it. Each child needs to be taught differently. I need to teach the way that child's brain learns. You can do the same. Use the way your brain learns and the brain works to actually improve these areas of your life. I'm going to give you some examples. So let's start with planning. So planning is an easy one, like in terms of tips. Use to-do lists. And maybe you need to share these with your partner. Maybe you within your household, whoever. Neuroplasticity is my favorite thing about the brain. It's just, if you haven't learned about or heard about neuroplasticity yet, I really encourage you to Google it. Watch YouTube videos on it. It is, thanks Rox, I agree, it is mine as well. My favorite thing about the brain. We really have the ability to mold our brains and to create new neural pathways. And when we do that, we can not only change our level of mental capacity in terms of intelligence and understanding of things, but we can also change our behavior. And it's how, and change how we respond to situations. So we can create new neural pathways all the time. So let's talk about some of these. Planning. How can you improve your planning at the moment? You can use to-do lists. You can share them with your partner. And when I say use to-do lists, one of my favorite things with to-do list is a full-on brain dump. Get it out of your head. Write it down on paper, everything that you need to do. If your phone or a computer works better for you for typing, etc., do that. But I'm going to tell you that writing it down is better because of a neural pathway, because you were taught to write things down as a child when you were taught in school. So you write them down, your brain goes, oh, I know that movement. I've done this before. You start encouraging your brain, start encouraging you about itself. Yes, I've done this before. I know this movement. Start with the easiest thing on your to-do list. Something you've done before, something you do often. Either via an email. I have to do this every week, or something that you have to do every week. Start there, because then what you're doing is you're encouraging yourself. Yes, something ticked off. Yes, I do it every day, or I do it once a week, but that's great. It's ticked off. I know I can do that. You then give yourself more ability to move forward and try something new and try something different. If organization is a challenge for you, again, write it down. And what you need to be writing it down is in the same place every time. Organization is important. It is something many of us struggle with. And again, is it something you possibly need help with? Now, remember, I said each of these topics is something I could do a full session with, so I'm just giving you a brief overview here. Time management. Ideas for time management. You can use alarms. You can use timers. You can have a clock near you. Plan out your day with realistic time frames. And when I say realistic, understand how long something is going to take you. And not just in, best case scenario. Rather use worst case scenario. Okay, I need to put in the laundry. I need to take something out to defrost for supper. Or I need to order supper, or whatever you're doing. And I need to pick the kids up in half an hour. Again, structure it realistically. Be honest with yourself. If all of that needs to wait because you need to consider traffic and getting into the car, out of the car, all those things, really just be honest with yourself about timing. If you still struggle with that, then time yourself doing a task. If something, for example, like, again, my nose is so itchy today. Getting dressed, having a shower and getting dressed. It might be a matter of you woke up a bit late, you want to have a quick shower and get dressed, but you have a 8:30 Zoom meeting. It's 8:15. Many of us will go, yes, sure, I can do that quickly. But then remember also with your trauma response, you're going to get distracted along the way. You're going to find other things you need to do. You might even decide, I'm quickly just going to clean the shower. This is what trauma does to our brains. It gives us a lot of other things we need to do at the same time because we can't just focus our attention on one activity or task at a time. If that does become a problem for you, time yourself doing that task. And then you can understand, okay, I actually need an hour for this and not just 15 minutes. Task initiation, again, I'm going to tell you, use what you have. At all times, use what you have. And what do you have around you? Many of us have our phones. You're either watching me on your phone, possibly. So set an alarm for task initiation. Give yourself a heads up. I'm going to start this activity at 11 o'clock. I'm going to start it at 10 o'clock. And then be true to yourself with it. Start it at 10 or 11. Set an alarm. Use a timer. And one of my best tips for it when it comes to task initiation is break down into smaller steps. So if, again, you need to make dinner and you're just really struggling to get into it, break it down into smaller steps. What are you going to make? What do you need for it? Take out the vegetables and etc. Like, break it down into what are the steps that you require. Take out the pot or pan. Take out the vegetables you need. You're going to cut them. See how far you get, even if you're just telling yourself, next task, next task, next task. I know this sounds overly simple, but these are actually very helpful if you try them. Working memory. Now, our working memory and our ability to remember things is challenging. But again, you can create these neural pathways. And I'm going to encourage you to play memory games, even family memory games. So, if your kids are also struggling with this in terms of, when they're bringing in that project to you that's due tomorrow and it's 9 o'clock on a Sunday evening and you're just like, why didn't you tell me? And they're like, I forgot. The best way to improve our memory is to just keep doing things that require our memory. And memory games are great for this. I play memory games with kids all the time because it's so we learn other things when we play memory games. Like if you're learning it with kids, you learn task initiation. I must go now. It's my turn. I must turn the card. And when I'm talking about memory games, you can use it with a plain deck of cards where you're trying, that game where you flip and match them. That's a memory game. You can play Snap. These games are crazy store. They are like $30-$40. You can make it a family activity if you are struggling with your memory and your kids are struggling with their memory. But these games really just spark that neural pathway of like, ooh, I spotted it there and I spotted it there. Yes, there it is, that short-term memory. And what you're doing there is you're improving your short-term memory. Make it fun, make it meaningful for you. Metacognition, and I was saying, using what we know to make a decision. There's a lot of this that comes with trust and self-trust and using, what you know and trusting what you know to make decisions. But it's also as simple as knowing that when you want to make peanut butter and a jam sandwich, that actually your working mem or your metacognition says, I need bread, I need peanut butter, I need jam. I know that this goes first, I know that goes next. So you're really just creating steps from stuff that you know already. So if you want to improve that, you need to trust your decision making in spaces and then continuously do things that you know you do well so that you can practice it. Self-control is a challenging one, but a good thing for self-control is timers, again, using what you have. There are apps that you can download for your phone that actually just switch off or close certain apps after a certain time period. You can use that. If you still want it, and after that time has gone off, if you still want to engage in the behavior that you shouldn't be, then you need to sort of, sorry, I typed weirdly here, so let me just figure that out. Yeah. If you still want to engage in the activity after your time has gone off, then you need to manage how little or how much you do of something. Not everything that we need self-control with is bad for us. One block of chocolate or 2 blocks of chocolate isn't particularly bad. If you're going to eat half a chocolate once or twice a week, you're also still okay. Where it becomes a problem is if you're eating multiple blocks of chocolate in a day and there's a history of diabetes in your family. You are finishing 2 bottles of wine or a bottle of wine a day, but there's a history of substance abuse in your family. It's something you must pay attention to. Also, when it comes to self-control, do you need help? No harm in needing help. There's no harm in telling the family member, I took 4 painkillers today. I didn't actually need, there was nothing that I needed the painkillers for. So maybe can you keep those, or I'll let you know sort of on a gradient of a headache. Like my headache today is actually because a lot of us are experiencing. Remember, we experience trauma in our bodies also. So you might have a headache, but does that mean you must take painkillers 3-4 times a day? I'm just planting these seeds because we so often think substance abuse and we go to smoking weed or cocaine or like hardcore drugs and lots of alcohol, but actually excessive sugar, excessive painkillers, like all of those things, those are also substances that we need to learn to control and have self-control with. Same with screen time. It isn't a matter of you need to find another thing you do so that during that time you're not needing to use your phone all the time to distract you. Other general tips. Again, I'm just going to give you general overview tips. To-do lists. To-do lists are really helpful to a brain dump, write out everything you need to do, go through it, and then start with the easiest first. Start with what you can do. It really just helps you be more energized for getting on. Drink water, stay hydrated. It really helps the brain work better. So even if it's a matter of like sitting, again, using your phone, it's been an hour, have you drank any water? Getting up and going to get water. I have a water bottle with me. I always have a water bottle with me. And my aim is that when I finish work by the day, I would have gone through 2. That's the best way you can make sure your brain is actually going to function, even though you're struggling with other executive functions. Delegate when you can. A trauma response is thinking that we must do everything ourselves. It's a trauma response. I know you don't want to hear it, but it is a trauma response. You don't have to do everything. You can't do everything. And there is no harm in delegating. Now, I'm speaking about this also when it comes to chores around the house. You do not have to be the only person who does the chores around the house. There are a lot of chores that children can actually easily learn. And there's a lot of information on how you can teach that on the internet as well. So go onto Pinterest and look for age-appropriate chores. There are age-appropriate chores for 2-year-olds. You can get your kids involved around the house so that you don't have to do everything. Remember, perfectionism is also a trauma response. And if those toys are in the green box instead of the blue box, does it actually matter? They're not on the ground and you don't have to pick it up. You don't have to redo it. You just actually have to then possibly learn to let go a little bit. Use big muscle groups when you are struggling. Now, this is a biggie for me. If you are really struggling with your concentration, your focus, your attention, your decision making, all of those things in your workday, if you're really struggling with it, get up, move your body, use big muscle groups. Often when I talk about move your body, people think exercise. Oh, I need to run, I need to walk, I need to go on a bike. Household chores are also moving your body. Sweeping is a massive exercise that uses big muscle groups. Sweep a little bit, get up, don't try and refocus yourself, get up, move your body. And when I say big muscle groups, I mean your thighs, your back, your arms, your shoulders, big muscle groups. So that might be that, what, I actually need to make up my bed, but I need to really flap the blankets before I do it. And I maybe need to do it 5 times so that I actually get that input into my body of using big muscle groups. Walk around, dance around, jump up and down. Hugs are amazing. Like hugs and really deep pressure hugs are so amazing to really use big muscle groups, get that proprioceptive input, and you'll actually find that your brain really functions a little bit better afterwards. If you don't think so, try it. This week you're struggling with concentration and focus, get up, move around a little bit, find your partner or your kids, and everybody gets a big squeeze. See if they pay better attention. It is really just using your sensory system and creating neural pathways to kind of just wake up your brain a little. Again, include exercise in your daily routine. And of course, that can be anything from dancing to sweeping. Do things you enjoy, like really do things you enjoy. The more things we enjoy, the more neural impulses we create of stuff that we enjoy, whether that be moving, dancing. Oh, that wasn't the best decision. Sorry, I need to put on a charger. Whether it be movie, dancing, even singing or watching something that you really enjoy, like do things you enjoy so that you can create those neural impulses of, ooh, I'm happy, I enjoy this. It makes a big difference in how your brain functions during the day. Big goals, working towards big goals and having something to look forward to is also an option to help out with this. So yes, you're struggling with decision making, but maybe as a family or as a group of people or friends, whoever you're working with, you can decide on one big goal. We're all going to go on holiday, or we're all going to meet for dinner. We're going to go for a picnic. We're going to go for a hike. Connection is important. We're just going to do a family Zoom chat or a friend Zoom chat. We're going to play a quiz game or something. Connection with others is something we're all struggling with at the moment. And if we really just reached out or even just sent a message of, hi, how are you? It could actually make a really big difference in how our brain functions right now. I think that is it. I'm going to close off and ask if anyone has questions, because then it's just under an hour. So if you are here and if you have been joining the session, again, thank you for joining this one. Today's 1 year of Self-Care Studio videos. I'm really excited about it. I can't believe it's gone through a year. It's one of those things that consistency has been necessary and has been challenging, especially I go through the trauma just as much as you go through the trauma. And it's working through that to actually push some of these things out. If you have questions, you can pop them in the chat section. If not, then I'm going to end off, and I want to say thank you for joining me today, of course. There are many more tips, and if you are finding that something I mentioned today is really not just a small problem, it's something that is significant for you or for a kid or somebody you know, a child you know, this is where mental health and where OTs in general play a role, because we look at where you're struggling with these executive functions, and we look at why you're struggling with it. Are you struggling with it because, the easy example is a child with reading. Executive functions we use in reading when we spot letters and we connect it to our brains is in like that metacognition I spoke about of, oh, I saw this before. So this is how you can look at a collection of letters that aren't in the right format, but you know what that word is. It's the fact that your brain's seen it before. But if I'm working with a child and they're struggling to read, I need to go through all the things. I'll go as simple as, can they see? Can they hear when the teacher's saying the word? Do they understand how to say the word? Where in their brain is the gap? That triangle that I showed you, I'd actually look at where is the gap. So I really want to encourage you, if what I'm spoken about today is something you really, really struggle with, inbox me. I mean, this is what I do as a mental health OT. I'm not just working on depression, anxiety, and mental illnesses. I'm also working in the space of your mental capacity, your ability to focus, your ability to have the energy to get through your work every day, your ability to do the work you need to do. And I really encourage you to reach out to a mental health OT, to inbox me. I mean, I do have capacity for more private patients at the moment. So inbox me if it's something you're interested in. There's also a link to email me if you want to. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Actually, let me just say thank you to everyone for this year. It's been an interesting year, to say the least. I've learned so much in this process, and I hope you have too. I want to congratulate you for looking after your mental health and for just seeing it as something that you know that it matters and that you matter. I want to tell you are enough, just as you are. You are always enough. And I applaud you for coming back, for learning, and just for leaning into those thoughts, even though you don't always think it's true, or even though it's something you're struggling with. Like, really well done for continuing in the space. Of course, I want to say thank you to my family and friends for trying things. They're very interesting, even though, of course, again, we've all grown up with a bias against mental health and a stigma against mental health. And if you are logging in and you are watching the lives or watching the recordings, you're actively working against that stigma. So thank you and congratulations. And I appreciate you for coming back. And just before I end, I cannot thank people without thanking my husband for this. My husband is my biggest supporter, my biggest cheerleader. He has watched every single live. He makes notes. We talk about it for the rest of the day afterwards. And it's really just such an amazing support. And having people that consistently believe in you is also really amazing. So I have to say thank you. I know he's watching because he's always watching, unless his phone dies, which is also an entertaining space for us. But thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you believing in the space. And yeah, everyone, I hope you've learned more about your mental health today and some tips. I hope these tips were helpful. If they were, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're trying to get me to 100 subscribers so that I can change the name of this channel. So tell your friends, hit subscribe and the like buttons. And then join me for more classes on improving your mental health. And just, yeah, we'll learn together. We improve our mental health together. And this is how we look after each other. So I hope you have a really good Saturday. I hope this was very helpful. Inbox me or message me or email me if you need more support in these spaces, or if you'd like this presentation somewhere else, send the link to a friend. It will be on my YouTube channel. But I hope you have a really day and a really